The great hall of the alien colony was filled with light and voices. Tall pillars rose toward the ceiling, and banners of the elder clans hung from every wall. This was the day many young alien females feared and dreamed about at the same time. It was the choosing day, the day where elders and warriors would select females for breeding. One by one, names were called. Each girl walked forward nervously. Some were chosen quickly. Proud families celebrating loudly. Some were turned away in silence, hiding their tears. At the edge of the line stood a girl named Lyra. Her skin shimmered faintly like pale silver. Her frame was thinner than the others. Her large eyes carried both hope and fear. She had waited her whole young life for this moment. She wanted to prove she was worthy, to be accepted, to have a future. When her name was called, she stepped forward. Her legs shook, but she forced herself to stand tall. The elders circled around, examining her. They looked at her shoulders, her hips, her movements. Their whispers grew louder, faces grew stern. "She is too weak," one elder muttered. "Her body will not bear strong children," another added. "Rejected," the oldest elder said finally, his voice cold. The words fell like heavy stones in her chest. The hall echoed with murmurs. Some young males laughed softly. Others looked away in pity. Lyra stood frozen, her hands trembling. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the ground to open and swallow her. She was pushed aside, left at the edge of the crowd like broken glass. No one comforted her, not even her own kin. To them she had failed. She was useless now. Her heart beat painfully. Her throat burned as tears threatened to fall. But then, from across the hall, another pair of eyes was watching. A human man, tall and different from everyone else. His skin darker than the pale aliens. His stance calm but strong. He had been invited as a guest, for humans had recently joined. Trade with this colony, unlike the others, his gaze did not carry mockery. His expression was unreadable. His eyes followed Lyra as she tried to hide herself in the shadows. Why was he looking at her? Lyra lowered her head, hugging herself tightly. The voices of rejection repeated in her mind. Too weak, unfit, rejected. Every word felt like a knife cutting deeper. She thought about running out of the hall, but her legs would not move. The human kept watching. His hand rested on the rail, his jaw tight. His eyes were not cruel. They almost seemed curious, concerned. The crowd returned to celebrating the chosen females. Music began to play. Families cheered, but Lyra could not hear any of it. Her world was now a blur of shame and loneliness. She whispered to herself, "Why was I born like this? Why am I not enough? Even my own people do not want me." Suddenly, she felt the weight of eyes again. She looked up, and her gaze met the humans from across the hall. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. His eyes did not turn away. His face showed no laughter, no disgust, only something she could not understand. Her chest tightened. Why would a human, an outsider, look at her with such attention? The suspense grew in her mind. Was he pitying her? Was he amused? Or was it something else entirely? As the ceremony ended, the crowd began to leave. Families surrounded the chosen ones, offering them gifts. Lyra slipped away quietly, heading for the dark corridors. Her steps echoed, her tears finally falling, but behind her, the sound of steady footsteps followed. She froze, turning slightly, and there he was, the human, walking slowly in her direction, his eyes still fixed on her. Her heart pounded, fear and confusion mixing together. Why was he following her? What did he want? She pressed her back against the cold wall, her breath shaking. The human stopped a few steps away, silent. His presence filled the corridor like a storm waiting to break. Lyra's mind raced. Would he mock her like the others? Would he remind her that she was worthless? Or would he speak words she never expected to hear? The silence between them stretched, heavy and tense. Suspense wrapped around her like chains. The rejection had broken her spirit. But the stranger's eyes carried something that unsettled her more than all the laughter in the hall. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt that someone saw her, Not as weak, not as useless, but as something else entirely, and in that moment, she knew her story was far from over. Asterisk, the cold corridor stretched long and empty. Lyra walked quickly, her hands brushing against the walls as if they could hide her from the world. Her chest was tight, and tears rolled silently down her cheeks. Each step felt heavier, as if her own body was pulling her deeper into despair. She thought she was alone. She thought the shadows would cover her shame. But the soft sound of footsteps echoed behind her, slow, steady, unwilling to vanish. She turned her head slightly and saw him, the human, still following, still watching. Fear and confusion filled her heart. Why would a human care about her? Why was he wasting his time on someone who was already marked as worthless? She wanted to shout at him to leave, but her voice was trapped. The human stopped a few steps away. His eyes softened, and he spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, deep, carrying warmth she had never heard before. "You should not cry," he said gently. "Not for them." Lyra froze. His words pierced her heart like a spark of light, breaking through endless night. She shook her head and whispered bitterly, "You do not understand. I am rejected. I am nothing." The human tilted his head, studying her face. There was no cruelty. In his eyes, no mocking smile. He stepped closer, but not too close, keeping a respectful distance. "You are not nothing," he said. "They are blind. That is all." Her lips trembled. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not even her own family. She wanted to believe his words, but the memory of rejection was too fresh, too sharp. "You are lying," she muttered. "If I had value, they would have seen it." The human shook his head slowly. His gaze stayed on her as if he could see through the cracks in her soul. "Value is not what they tell you it is," he replied. "Sometimes it is what others cannot see." Lyra lowered her eyes, unable to meet his. She felt small, fragile, yet strangely safe under his presence. She did not know why, but her legs stopped trembling. Her breath grew steadier. The corridor was silent except for their voices. And in that silence something fragile began to bloom. The human reached into his coat and pulled out a small container. He opened it, revealing food strange by alien standards, but warm and fragrant. He held it out to her. "You should eat," he said. "It will help." Her eyes widened. Hunger gnawed at her belly, for she had not eaten since morning still. She hesitated. In her world, kindness always came with a price. Yet his gaze did not demand. His hand was steady. Patient, slowly, she reached out, her thin fingers brushing his as she took the food. The warmth of the container spread through her palms. She lifted it to her lips and tasted the strange human meal. It was soft, rich, unlike anything she had known. Tears welled in her eyes again, not from sorrow but from the shocking comfort of it. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling. "Because no one should walk alone like this." He answered simply. She stared at him, confused. His words were not grand or complicated. They were simple. Yet they carried a strength she could feel deep inside. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her without judgment, without disgust. He did not see her as weak or broken. He simply saw her. But in her mind, questions swirled. Why was he different? Why did he care? Did he see something others could not? Their eyes met again, and the silence between them grew heavy with meaning. Her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with something new, something she did not yet have a name for, yet. Even as the warmth of the moment wrapped around her, a shadow lingered. If others saw them together, if the elders learned of this encounter, punishment would fall on both of them. She knew it, and fear returned. She pulled the container closer to her chest and whispered, "You should not be near me. They will not accept it. They will not accept you." The human's lips curved into a faint smile, not mocking but gentle. "I am not here for them," he said. "I am here for you." Her breath caught in her throat. The words echoed inside her like a flame bursting to life. She looked away quickly, her cheeks burning with heat. She did not know why her heart pounded so hard. She only knew that in this cold world, his presence felt like the first ray of light she had ever touched. The footsteps of the crowd grew distant behind them. The hall outside had returned to its noise. But here, in the quiet corridor, something else was beginning. Something fragile, uncertain, yet powerful. Lyra did not understand it. The human himself may not have understood it fully either, but both felt it, an invisible thread connecting them, one that no elder, no law, no rejection could break so easily. The night outside the hall was waiting, and so was the story that had just begun. The night air outside the grand hall was cool. Stars shimmered above like silver dust scattered across a dark sea. Lyra walked slowly, clutching the food container close to her chest. Her heart was still trembling, not only from the rejection, but also from the strange kindness of the human who had followed her. He walked beside her now, not too close, not too far. His steps steady, his presence calm. For the first time in her life, she felt as though someone chose to walk with her. Not because of duty, not because of tradition, but because he wanted to. They reached the edge of the colony square, where glowing lanterns floated in the air, casting gentle light on the stone paths. Most of the people had gone home, leaving the square quiet. Only the distant laughter of the chosen echoed faintly from the elder houses. Lyra sat down on a low stone bench, her shoulders heavy. She thought he would leave, but he stayed, sitting across from her. His eyes never wavered. "Why do you keep looking at me like that?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp with confusion. "Do you not see what they see? Do you not see I am broken?" The human tilted his head slightly. His eyes were thoughtful, his voice steady when he replied. "I do see," he said, "but I see something different than they do." Her breath caught, her eyes narrowed. "Different? What do you mean?" He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees. "They look at you and see weakness," he said. "They measure you by what your body can give them. But I look at you and I see strength. I see someone who stood in front of the whole hall, faced their cruel words, and still walked away. Do you know how much courage that takes?" Lyra's chest tightened. She shook her head quickly. "No, you are wrong. I did not have courage. I wanted to vanish. I wanted to hide. Yet you did not run," he answered softly. "You stood there. You faced them. Even now you are still here, breathing, speaking. That is courage." Her lips trembled. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. His words wrapped around her heart, soothing wounds she thought would never heal. She looked away, embarrassed. "You do not understand. My people, they do not value what you say. They only value strength, children, and usefulness." The human's eyes softened further. "Then they are blind," he said firmly, "because beauty and worth are not only in what a body can produce, they are in the spirit, in the heart, in the way someone endures, and I see that in you." Lyra turned her face away, but tears slipped down her cheeks. Her hands clutched the food container tighter. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you say these things to me? What do you gain from it?" He shook his head slowly. "Not everything is about gain," he replied. "Sometimes it is about truth. Sometimes it is about seeing someone for who they are, not what others call them." Her heart pounded. The silence between them grew thick. Again, heavy with emotion she did not understand. She had lived her whole life believing she was less, and now here was a stranger, an outsider, telling her she was more. The square around them was silent. Only the flickering lanterns moved with the night wind. Lyra finally dared to lift her eyes and look at him again. His gaze was steady, strong, and unwavering. He did not look at her with pity. He did not look at her as if she were fragile glass. He looked at her as if she were something rare, something precious. Her voice shook as she spoke. "If what you say is true, then why do others not see it?" He smiled faintly. "Because sometimes the greatest treasures are invisible to those who are too proud to look closely." The words struck her deeply. She felt warmth spread through her chest, confusing but comforting. She wanted to argue, to deny, but a part of her longed to believe every word. That night, rumors began to stir. A few who had seen them leave together whispered. Some laughed, saying the human was desperate to notice someone so worthless. Others mocked her even more, whispering that she was trying to trap him. The words cut deep, but when she glanced at the human, she saw no shame on his face. He walked with his head high, as if her company was not a burden, but a choice he was proud of. Her steps grew lighter, her shoulders lifted. She had never felt this before, being seen, being defended without a single word. As they walked toward the outer paths of the colony, she realized something shocking. For the first time, she did not feel small. She did not feel invisible. She felt as if, in his presence, she had been given back pieces of herself she never knew were missing. Her world had always told her she was less, but this human, with simple words and steady eyes, was showing her a different kind of beauty. A beauty that had nothing to do with breeding, nothing to do with strength, and everything to do with who she was. And in her heart, though she did not dare to say it aloud, she began to wonder, could it be true? Could someone truly see her as worthy? Could someone truly love her, even when her own people could not? The night stretched long, filled with questions, with whispers, with hope she had never dared to hold. And as she walked beside him under the starlight, Lyra knew one thing. For certain her life would never be the same again. Asterisk. The days after the choosing ceremony were restless. Lyra no longer walked the colony streets as a shadow. She was seen, not by her people, but by whispers that followed her like sharp knives. Wherever she went, eyes turned, some filled with laughter, others with disgust. The rejected girl, they said, now walked with a human outsider. The rumors grew, spreading faster than fire on dry leaves. Some claimed the human was mocking her. Some claimed she had bewitched him. Others whispered that he was desperate, lowering himself to notice someone unwanted. Lyra tried to ignore them, but every word stung. The pain was familiar, but now it was heavier, because she feared her presence would harm the only one who had shown her kindness. The human, however, walked with calm strength, his head high, his eyes steady. He did not respond to their insults. He did not hide from their stares. When they laughed, he did not falter. When they mocked, he did not flinch. His silence was not weakness. It was defiance. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the colony, casting pale light across the square, the elders summoned him. The message was clear: his behavior had become unacceptable. The council chamber was a grand place, filled with ancient carvings and high thrones. Lyra did not want him to go. She clutched his arm, her voice breaking. They will not listen to you. They will try to drive you away. Please, do not face them for me. The human placed his hand gently over hers, his eyes warm yet firm. I will not abandon you, he said simply. If I must face them, I will. Her heart ached. She wanted to stop him, but she knew she could not. With trembling steps, she followed him to the chamber. The elders sat in a circle, their eyes sharp as blades. The oldest elder leaned forward, his voice like stone. Human, we welcomed you as a guest. We gave you trade. We gave you respect, yet you dishonor us by lowering yourself to a rejected one. Do you not see the insult? The human's jaw tightened, his voice steady but unyielding. I see no insult in showing kindness, he replied. I see no dishonor in standing beside her. The chamber grew tense. Murmurs spread among the elders. One slammed his hand against the stone armrest. She is worthless. Her body cannot serve her people. She has no place in our future. And you, human, bring shame by pretending otherwise. Lyra flinched. The words pierced her again like arrows. She wanted to speak, but fear silenced her. She lowered her head, tears burning her eyes. But the human stepped forward, his voice firm. You measure worth by use. I do not. You see weakness. I see strength. You see failure. I see someone who endured your cruelty and still stands. Hall went silent. His words echoed against the carved walls. The elders looked at him with narrowed eyes. The eldest elder's voice turned cold. You forget where you are, outsider. This is not your world. You do not decide our values. If you continue, you will be cast out, exiled, and never return. Lyra gasped, her heart clenched painfully. She stepped forward quickly, her voice desperate. No, please, do not punish him. It is my fault. I should not have let him near me. I will stay away. I will accept it. Just do not cast him out. The human turned to her, his expression softening. He shook his head slowly. You did nothing wrong, he whispered. Do not blame yourself. The elder's eyes grew colder, their voices like hammers striking. You have until sunrise to decide, one of them said. Leave her and honor our ways, or choose her and lose your place here forever. The words fell heavy in the chamber. Lyra felt her knees weaken. Her breath came shallow. She clutched her chest as if it could hold her breaking heart. When they left the chamber, the night outside felt heavier than ever. The streets were empty, the lanterns flickering in the wind. Lyra turned to him, her voice breaking apart. You cannot choose me. You cannot. You will lose everything. Your people will look down on you. My people already hate me. If you stay near me, you will be ruined. The human looked at her quietly, his eyes calm, his voice steady. Then let me be ruined, for I would rather stand beside you and lose everything than leave you alone in this world. Her tears finally fell. She could not understand this strength, this loyalty. Her own people had cast her aside, but this human spoke as if she were more valuable than any crown. The night stretched on, filled with silence, filled with fear. Yet beneath that fear, something stronger burned. The conflict had risen, and soon the whole colony would be forced to see the truth of his choice. And as dawn approached, both knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The first light of dawn touched the alien colony. A soft glow spread over the tall spires and stone courtyards. But for Lyra and the human, the air felt heavy with fear. The elder's words from the night before still rang in their ears. Choose tradition or choose exile. Lyra sat on the edge of a stone bridge, her hands trembling as she stared at the river below. The water shimmered with silver light from the rising suns. She wanted to be strong, but inside she was breaking. The human stood nearby, his gaze steady, his face calm but firm. He looked at the sky as though searching for answers in the stars. You must leave me, Lyra whispered at last. Her voice cracked like broken glass. You must go back to your own people. Forget me. I am not worth this price. He turned to her, his brow furrowed, his voice quiet yet unshakable. You are worth more than they will ever see. Her chest tightened. She shook her head quickly. No, you do not understand. You will lose everything. They will never welcome you again. You will be treated as a fool. They will laugh at you, hate you. Even your own people may turn against you. He stepped closer, kneeling so his eyes met hers. His voice dropped low, filled with steady fire. Then let them. I would rather be hated for standing beside you than praised for leaving you behind. Her tears spilled over, her heart raced. His words struck deeper than any blade. She pressed her hands against her face, whispering, Why? Why would you do this for me? He gently pulled her hands away, his eyes locked on hers. Because love is not about what a body can give. It is not about tradition or use. It is about seeing someone's soul, and I see yours. The silence after those words felt endless. The sound of the river faded. The wind seemed to still. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She had never heard such words in her life, not from anyone. For a long moment, she could not speak. Her people had called her broken, but this human spoke as if she were whole. He looked at her not as a burden, but as someone precious. The morning bells rang, calling the colony to gather. Today the elders expected his answer. The entire colony would be watching. They walked side by side to the central square. Lyra's steps unsteady, her head lowered. Around them, whispers grew louder, crowds gathered, families stood with folded arms. Young males sneered, mothers shook their heads. There she is, someone muttered. The rejected one. And the human who lowered himself, another. Laughed, the elders waited on the high steps, their robes flowing like shadows. The oldest elder raised his hand for silence. His voice thundered across the square. Human, the time has come. Choose leave her and remain a guest of honor, or hold to her and walk away in exile. The square fell silent. All eyes turned to him. Lyra's breath stopped. Her chest ached as though it might break. She wanted to beg him one last time to leave her, to save himself, but her voice failed. The human stood tall, his shoulders straight, his eyes calm but burning with fire. He looked at the elders, then at the crowd. Finally, his gaze settled on Lyra, trembling at the edge of the steps. I choose her, he said firmly. His voice carried through the square, strong and unshaken. Gasps filled the air. Some laughed in disbelief, others whispered in shock. The elders' faces hardened. The oldest elder's voice rose like thunder. Then you are no longer welcome among us. You shame yourself and your people. Take her and leave this place. Lyra staggered back. Her heart pounded wildly. Tears blurred her vision. She could not believe what she had just heard. He had chosen her broken, rejected, unwanted her over honor, over safety, over everything. The human turned, walking down the steps toward her. His hand reached out, steady and open. Come, he said softly. Let us walk together. Her legs trembled. She stared at his hand. Every part of her screamed that this was wrong, that he would regret it, yet her heart ached with a warmth she had never known. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The crowd erupted. Some jeered, some laughed, but a few stood in stunned silence. Watching them walk hand in hand, their figures small against the vast square, as they left the colony walls behind, Lyra finally spoke, her voice breaking. You gave up everything for me. I do not understand. I do not deserve it, he squeezed her hand gently, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. You do not need to understand yet. Just know that you are not alone anymore. I will not leave you. Her tears fell freely, but this time they were not only from sorrow, they were from something new, something fragile and powerful. Hope. The colony faded behind them, but Lyra's heart felt lighter. The world ahead was uncertain, but she no longer walked it alone. For the first time, she dared to believe that perhaps she was not broken. Perhaps she was loved, not for what she could give, but for who she truly was. And as they stepped into the rising light, she felt as though her story was only just beginning. The road beyond the colony stretched wide and empty. Tall grass swayed in the morning wind. Birds with bright wings soared above, calling into the sky. Lyra walked beside the human, her hand still in his. Every step felt unreal. She had been abandoned by her people, but she was not alone anymore. Yet with every mile they walked, whispers of doubt grew louder inside her heart. She thought of the faces in the square, the laughter, the disgust, the elders' final words. She wondered how long he could endure this weight. By the second day, rumors had already spread beyond the colony walls. Traders they passed stared at them with wide eyes. Some muttered curses under their breath. Some laughed openly. A few even spat at the ground as the pair walked by. He chose the rejected one. Someone sneered. A human lowers himself to broken flesh. Fools, another muttered. Both will regret it. Each word stung. Lyra's shoulders curled inward. She wanted to hide. She wanted to vanish. Yet every time she lowered her head, the human's hand tightened gently around hers. His silent strength steadied her, reminding her she was not walking alone. That night, they rested near the edge of a forest. A small fire flickered between them. Lyra sat quietly, staring into the flames. Her voice broke the silence at last. You hear what they say. You see how they look at us. Why do you not care? The human looked up from the fire. His eyes reflected the glow, calm yet firm. Because their words do not decide who we are, he answered. They only show their own blindness. She shook her head, her voice trembling. But it will never end. They will keep mocking. They will keep hating. They will call you weak for standing with me. You will never find peace. He leaned closer, his voice steady. Peace is not found in pleasing others. Peace is found in standing true to what matters. And you matter to me. Her chest tightened. She looked away, tears welling in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever given her worth without asking for something in return. But the world was not gentle. The next day, as they entered a small market town, the hostility grew stronger. Merchants refused to sell to them. Families pulled their children aside. Guards narrowed their eyes. One guard stepped forward, his voice sharp. You are not welcome here. Leave before trouble finds you. The human's jaw tightened. He did not raise his voice, but his words were firm. We will leave when we have food and water, nothing more, the guard sneered. Not for her, she has no place among us. Lyra's breath caught. Shame burned in her chest. She wanted to run, but the human stood between her and the guard, his presence strong, his voice low but unwavering. Then deny me as well, for I will not take anything without her. The guard hesitated, anger flashing. In his eyes the crowd watched in silence. Some laughed, others whispered. Finally, another merchant, an older one, stepped forward quietly and placed food before them. His voice was tired but kind. Take it and go before they do worse. They left quickly, Lyra's hands trembling as she carried the supplies. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Why do you fight for me like this when the whole world is against us? The human glanced at her, his face calm. Because the whole world can be wrong. Her tears spilled again. She pressed a hand to her chest. The warmth of his words fought against the cold of rejection that clung to her soul. That night, as they camped under the stars, Lyra lay awake. Her thoughts twisted between fear and wonder. She remembered every cruel word spoken by her people, but she also remembered every word the human had spoken. He saw beauty where others saw failure. He saw strength where others saw weakness. And though the world hated them, his gaze never wavered. Yet deep inside, she felt a storm. The world was not done with them. Their bond was not only frowned upon, it was dangerous. Already whispers spoke of those who might hunt them down, of elders who would not allow such shame to live freely. She turned her eyes to the stars, her voice a whisper. Will this end with us destroyed? The human, lying beside the fire, opened his eyes. His voice was calm. Even in the darkness, not destroyed, he said. Only tested, and together we are stronger than they know. Lyra's heart trembled. She wanted to believe. She wanted to hold on to his strength as her own. Slowly, she let herself rest against him, for the first time in her life. She did not dream of being accepted by her people. She dreamed of being free with him. But far away, in the colony halls, the elders spoke in anger, their voices rising with hatred. The human has defied us, one growled. He has insulted our traditions. And the girl, another spat. She should have vanished in silence. Instead, she walks proudly under his shadow. Their decision was sharp, cold, merciless. They would not allow this union to continue, not without punishment, and so the world that had already turned against them was about to strike harder. The days of walking in whispers and stares were ending. Soon the chase would begin. The forest stretched wide and deep. Morning mist clung to the trees, and the world felt silent. But beneath the silence, danger waited. Lyra and the human moved carefully, their steps quiet. Both knew the elders would not allow them peace. By the third day, the chase began. Shadows moved through the trees, armored hunters sent by the council. Their voices echoed faintly in the distance. Find them, bring the human, silence the girl. Lyra's heart pounded as she clung to his arm. Fear threatened to crush her. She whispered through trembling lips, They are coming for us. You should leave me, if they capture you. Your people will suffer. Please go. But the human shook his head firmly. His eyes burned with fire. No, I will not leave you. Not now, not ever. The hunters grew closer. Their torches flickered in the shadows. The sound of metal armor clashed with the rustling leaves. Lyra's breath quickened. Her body trembled. Memories of rejection filled her mind. She thought this would be the end. But the human stepped forward, standing tall before her. His voice rang through the trees. "If you want her, you must come through me." The hunters sneered, circling. Around their leader raised his weapon, his voice cold. "You protect what is worthless. Step aside, human, or fall." Lyra's tears spilled. She tried to pull him back, but he did not move. His body was a shield between her and the world. His strength unshaken, the hunters attacked, blades flashed. The human fought with everything he had, his movements sharp, his stance strong. He was only one against many, yet he did not falter. Each strike he made was not for glory, not for survival. But for her, Lyra watched in terror, her hands shaking. She had always believed herself useless, weak, unwanted. But as she saw him bleed, saw him fight for her life, something inside her broke free. "No more," she whispered to herself. Her eyes blazed with new fire. She grabbed a fallen branch. Stepping forward, her voice rose loud and clear. "I am not worthless. I am not broken. You will not take me again." The hunters paused, shock flickering in their eyes. The girl they had called useless now stood tall, fierce, alive. The human glanced at her, pride shining through his pain. Together they fought. She struck with desperation, he with strength. The hunters fell back, unprepared for the fire they faced. The forest rang with the clash of will against tradition, of love against cruelty. At last the hunters withdrew, dragging their wounded leader, their voices bitter. "This is not the end. You cannot defy the elders forever." When silence returned, Lyra fell to her knees, her hands shaking, her eyes filled with tears. The human knelt beside her, blood staining his arm, but his voice steady. "You were brave," he whispered. "You stood when it mattered most." Her tears spilled. She pressed her forehead to his chest, her voice breaking. "I thought I was nothing. I thought I was useless, but with you, I am more. You gave me strength I never knew I had." He wrapped his arms around her gently, his voice soft. "No, the strength was always yours. I only helped you see it." The stars began to pierce the dark sky as night fell. The danger was not gone, but something greater had been born. For the first time, Lyra no longer felt like the rejected one. She felt alive, strong, and chosen. Days later, word of their defiance spread across nearby colonies. Some mocked, but others whispered in awe. The story of the human who chose the broken girl, and the girl who stood beside him, grew into something greater. Among the whispers, one phrase began to echo. She was treated as worthless by her own, yet the human loved her like a queen. Lyra's heart swelled every time she heard it. She no longer lowered her head in shame. She walked with pride, her hand always in his. The world was still against them, but the bond between them was unbreakable. Together, they carved their own path, one where love mattered more than tradition, one where worth was not measured by breeding or strength, but by the heart. And as she looked at him beneath the endless stars, his hand warm in hers, she finally understood. She was not broken, she was not rejected. She was crowned, not by her people, but by the love of a man who saw her soul and made her his queen.